Pulling it up. Okay, we've got 1 minute till we start. Just all you need is pencil and paper because we're just drawing today. So we'll wait till 1 o'clock, let everyone get on and join us, and then we're going to draw this super cute harvest mouse.
Don't you mean 3?
Oh, I mean 3 o'clock. I'm so used to saying 1 o'clock. Keaton goes, don't you mean 3? It's like, I'm so used to saying 1. But we had a fun class at 1 o'clock today. So now it's the 3 o'clock class. And did you say it's 3 o'clock? It's 3 o'clock. It's time to start. So welcome to art class. Welcome to our drawing. And so I did not know about these cute little guys. And Keaton told me all about them. So if you have not Googled them, they fall asleep in flowers. There's all these cute little pictures of little mice curled up in little flowers and eating little... And I'm not even a mouse person, but oh my goodness, these are the cutest things ever. So that's what we're going to draw today because you can't help but smile when you do that. So, like everything, normally what we do is we break things down into shapes. So grab your pencil, grab your paper, and we're going to draw our little guy because they like to sleep in the flowers. Now, Keaton, did you tell me that they like the pollen? The pollen makes them sleepy?
They like the smell of the pollen.
They like the smell of the pollen, so they climb in, and they're teeny tiny, and so they climb in, and they like to hang out in the flowers. So you'll see them coming out of the flowers, laying down in the flowers. It's like the cutest thing ever. So we're going to do this because we're going to get a little bit of our flower shape in there too. So let's start with our flower, and then we'll build our little mouse face in there. So we're going to start with that one first. If we have time, we'll get to some of the others. If not, I'll give you some pointers on those. So let's go ahead, and we've got a stem right here. I'm going to move this off, but I'll have that reference. So we've got a stem. That's an easy way to start. I'm using a big sheet of paper, and I'm using charcoal so that you can see it. If we look at how far our picture is, I'm going to use my hand right here, these 2 fingers, and I'm going to measure that part, and I'm going to come up. Do you see that that stem is about half of the picture? So we're going to draw the bottom half, and it's just basically a long, skinny, thick line. There you go. There's your flower stem. So if you're on your paper, you're kind of wanting this to be, you're going to make sure you have enough space around it, but your line is about, so my line, my flower is going to be that big. See how that works right there. So we've got that. Now our flower, if you look at it, has a shape. It's not quite circular. It's circular right here and then comes up. So it's as though it's like a wine glass or something that has straighter edges that come in at the top and a curve at the bottom. So we're going to put that curve at the bottom first, just like that. I'm a little bit off on my curve. So there we go. And then I'm going to bring that around, and I'm going to bring it up higher. So get my tulip shape in there. So we're just as though we're making a big letter U, like we're making the letter U right there, and we've got our stem. So that pretty much, I mean, that's when you break it down, it's pretty simple in that shape. Then it's as though the petals of the tulip have parted to let our little mousey show. So we're going to come in and we're going to make a V right there, as though we come in with a notch right there. Can you see that? And now I'm going to come back up. So that's going to give us our little space for our little guy to poke through. So we've got that. So let's draw a little bit. We'll add a few details to our, we're going to carry this line on down. So we're getting that petal. I'm making these really dark so you can see them, but you always draw a little bit lighter, so if you want to come back in and adjust your lines, you're able to do that. So it's got a little bit of a lip to the flower. So we're going to add that in. So what I did was I brought a line down and I gave it a little bit of a wiggle there. So a flower's organic, so the lines aren't going to be perfectly straight. So we can kind of move them around. And I've got Keaton behind the camera today, and I've got Tate on the computer. So if you have any questions, say hi, let us know where you are today, and Is it hot and steamy like it is in Kentucky? So this one has a little lip right here, kind of coming down. You can start to see our flower start to come. So instead of just drawing that line straight down, I'm giving it a little bit of a wiggle. And that's going to make it feel as though the petal's unfolding. Right here, we're going to see a little bit of an extra petal. So let's bring those around. And you can kind of do that as though we see that line coming in. So we started with our stem right here. Oh, we have a question, Tate said.
How many more free art lessons are you going to have?
Somebody asked me, how many more free art lessons am I going to have? Well, I'm trying to offer at least one a week. We opened up our studio. I'm so excited. And we started art camps this week. So we've been talking with so many of you and been engaging and having fun classes. We've got lots of other ones that are on the website. And we get to have classes hopefully in the studio in July. So we've been doing that, but don't worry, I love meeting with you, and I want to make sure that art is accessible to everyone. There are lots of people that don't have the opportunity to come into a studio, or it doesn't always fit their schedule. So this way, I'm going to come to you. So watch for those. I'll try to post those on Facebook as our schedule adjusts and I know better what my time looks like. Great question. So we've got our petals, our flowers right here. And I'm going to go ahead and add my leaf. So the leaf is going to come up. I want you to notice how high. It comes up almost as high as that flower and starts at that very base. Look at that coming all the way up here. See that little squiggle of that line? So, but it comes together at the base and comes together at the top. So let's try that. We're going to come up here and look how high up I'm bringing it. So it's as though it's almost like a little backwards, well, no, that'd be a correct J, as though, but we just came from the bottom up and gave it that. And then we're going to make that point, give it some width. We're going to come to a point, have it come out, and then have it come back down to a point right here. So we're going to get our leaf that way. Meanwhile, our mouse is poking around somewhere, and he's about to get a little sleepy because we're going to put him in there next to the pollen. We're going to add a little lip to our leaf, just like we did right here. So let's do that. You see how I just let my line have a little squiggle in there? So now here comes the fun part. We're going to leave this right here, and we can come to that with a little bit of shading, but let's get our mouse in there. So we've got our little guy, but if we break it down, do you see it's pretty simple? We've got a circle right there coming out. We've got one little paw and then two little ears. So if we're going to put his circle, and his circle starts about the top of the flower and comes down in. So let's go with that circle right there. Put that circle kind of coming in. You can't quite see all the edges. I'm going to adjust my line right there. So it's as though the flower is like holding a little circle. See, like that. And then let's give him his little ears. So we've got the circle in the middle of the flower. We've got this. We've got these shapes. Let's give him little ears. The ears both touch the flower. So let's do that. And they're just as though you're adding little rainbows to his head. So we just kind of have those little arches right there. And then we're going to add a little bit extra. So we're going to come back in, give that ear a little bit of a lip. So let me go over what I just did. We've got our stem, our flower that comes apart, our squiggly lines that come down in. We've got our leaf that starts as a point at a base, and we know it's almost as tall as our flower. So we're going to pull that up and then bring it back together. So your lines are together, apart, back together. You're going to add that little bit of a squiggle line, and then we're going to start placing our mouse in the flower. So we've got a circle that's just being held at that top, and we've got some ears that we put on, and we give a little bit of a lip there. So, we have any questions, Tate? We good? Okay. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to start putting in the details, which are pretty simple. He has a tiny little nose and 2 little black eyes. So his nose is going to fall pretty close. If we look right here, if our circle's there, it's not in the middle, it's in the lower half. So we know his little nose is going to be a little upside down triangle right there, just like that. So it's as though you just make a little upside down triangle, and it's in the bottom half, so right there. And then we're going to give a little darkness. It's hard for me to get a little detail with this compressed charcoal. We're going to give him a little dot right there that we're going to bring as though we're making a little mustache for him. But that's going to be the way his mouth sits. So it's almost like you have a little mustache underneath the nose. So then we're going to place his eyes. Now let's look in relation to the ears. The eyes come down about where that ear is. So if I just drag right to here, I know there's an eye there. I'm going to make a dot there so you can see. And if I come down straight from that ear, I'm going to make a dot there. So let's make those eyes a little bit bigger, and then we'll go over that again. So the eyes are ovals, and they're going to slant a little bit this way. Oh, we have a question.
Somebody says, what kind of flower is the mouse in?
The flower is in a tulip in this one. So somebody asked what kind of flower. We're in a tulip right there. So we're going to add some shading. And I think they when I Google them, I see them in all kinds of flowers. So did anyone Google and look at the pictures?
Somebody says it looks like a rose.
It does kind of look like a rose. I think there are some things that look like a rose. So I'm going to make those eyes a little bit bigger, just like this. Now I'm using charcoal here, so it's very dark, but you see how they kind of slant down right there. And it looks pretty simple right now, as though we just have outlines, because we're blocking in all our shapes and our structure, so we know where our shading's going to be. And then pretty much, until we start adding our shading, we're just going to add his little hand. I think they have 4 little fingers. So we're going to add that little hand. Now, watch real closely. This hand kind of occurs right here and goes up into the face. So it's as though it's right here. See where I put it right there? As though he's reaching around like the petals here, and he's doing this just to let you see him. So we're going to put those little hands as though it's right there, and I'll let you see that. And then I'm going to probably switch to a vine charcoal to shade, because it won't be as intense as that compressed charcoal that I'm using. So if you're using your pencil, let me talk to you a little bit about shading. When I use a regular pencil, which you can just be using one from your desk or something you found in the junk drawer in the kitchen, when I shade, I put it on the side like this, and I hold it this way. You know, normally you're holding your pencil this way. So I turn it, and I have it held like this, and then I put my finger right onto the wooden part so that I can get it right against the surface. What happens is that enables me to get the side of the lead so that I can shade it that way. It also enables me to press harder if I want to, or lift it up and not put so much pressure. So that's a good shading tip if you're using a pencil. I'm going to be I typically use charcoal or markers when I'm on the board. I would normally, when I drew this out, I just used actually a regular pencil I found sitting on our dining room table. Is there a question, Tate? No? So that way you can see all that movement. So we're going to look at the shading here. When you're shading, you're always giving darkness or taking away the white of the paper to places where there are shadow. So we know that the little mouse is dark in here, so let's darken that up. That's really in there in the shadow. I'm going to shade that in. Give that, now, look, I've got charcoal. Oh, there's a question, Keaton.
How would you shade with a mechanical pencil or a pen?
Okay, if you have a mechanical pencil, you don't have the ability to turn it on its side. And with a pen, the same thing. What you can do is you can do more what's called cross-hatching. So when you're shading with a pen, there are multiple ways to shade with a pen. But for something like this, when you're cross-hatching, you're making lines that are going this way. And then when you want an area to look darker, you make your lines closer together. And right now it's just called hatching. And when you want it to look lighter, you make your lines further apart. And then you do a cross, which means you come across the hatching. So now it's cross hatching. So this mark, when you're shading like that, is called hatching. That, not like hatching an egg, but you're not doing an egg. So that's that type of shading. So to do a cross, you come across. The closer it is together, the darker it will look until you get further apart. So with a mechanical pencil is excellent in drawing when you want to get really fine, precise lines, but it's not always your friend when you want to do some shading. So you have to really resort and treat it like a pen and come into this cross hatching. So if we were doing this, you'd make lots of lines that went one way and then the others across, and they'd be pretty close together. And then as we come out, I'll be doing some markings that are similar to hatching, but it's more a scribble mark. So if I come back in with my compressed charcoal on top of that vine, you should be able, maybe, can they see that on camera? Right, where I'm cross-hatching? Can you see that? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to treat that a little more like I'm using the tip of a pencil. So right in there. Now mine is going to get really messy because I'm using charcoal. Oh, we have a question.
Will we add a tail or is the flower hiding?
Now the flower is hiding the tail. You do see a little bit of a tail right there. But you know what? If you want to add that to your picture, the tail could come up in the back. That would be really fun. So mine's getting a little messy because I'm using that compressed charcoal. So I'm going to come back in with a kneaded eraser and take out some of my... I know. Somebody said an eraser. What am I going to do? You actually use an eraser a lot in drawing, but I tend to not like to let beginning students use an eraser when we're laying out the drawing because you never know that that line wasn't the perfect line until you get enough information in. So we've got that a little darker. Now these are going to be the few crucial things. We're going to put this information on the mouse. This is where we worry a little bit more. So right where we put this in, we're going to shade that right here because we want it to look like the inside of the ear. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to shade right up against. If I have a pen or a pencil, I'm just making my lines just like that, right in there. And I'm doing it darker against that edge. So, and notice how I get lighter as we get out to the side. So we're just giving it that feeling of coming out. Let me see if I can get this little hand while I'm letting everyone shade. So I'm using a kneaded eraser to erase. If you're not familiar with a kneaded eraser, it looks like a little gray square when you get it, and then you literally knead it, kind of like you were kneading bread. So it's K-N-E-A-D-I-N-G. And then when you want to get erase your charcoal and it gets really black, so I'll show you that, and you get that really black, you just knead that charcoal into it and get a fresh point. And then if I want to get a little detail, I put it down to a point and I can come in and come along right there. So it's that compressed charcoal so dark it's not going to let me take a lot off. So let's go in and shade the face. Now what happens is this nose is coming out towards us. So we're going to make the hair go away from us. And the hair is going to kind of form that triangle around the nose. So I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to go just like this around. So see how I'm making those little strokes as though that face, that little nose is coming out towards me. So I'll bring those in a little closer to the eye. It's as though that hair is coming away. So it's as though you're putting a mustache kind of above the nose. like that. And we'll give him a little, and then we'll shade around the eye. So I'm just making little stroke marks, kind of giving him movement around the eye right here. And I'm changing the direction anywhere I think the hair would go. So my strokes are going in the way I think the hair would go. So you see all this over here. Now I'm going to mush my color in a little bit because I have charcoal, and I'm going to soften my shading. Just because I have such a hard edge on here. You can do this a little bit with a pencil, but it won't really get there. And then I'm going to come back in actually with a charcoal pencil that I think you might be able to see and get those lines so you can see them. Oops, that one's not working. That's an HB hard. We don't want that. Here's a 2B medium. Okay. So I'm going to make those lines again so you can see that. Can they see that on camera, Keaton, where I'm putting those in? And then I'm kind of making them around the eye as though the little hair is coming off around the head. And as I get closer to the flower, I'm going to make it a little bit darker because it's inside the flower, so it's going to be in shadow. Okay? So you see what we're doing around there? We're making that nose come forward. We want to come along the edge of the face. And let's do that other little eye right there. So these light little strokes I'm making, I'm not sure how well they're reading on camera, but I'm trying to do them so that you can see how the mechanical pencil would work. So I'm going to come along here and I'm going to erase some of my dark lines in the hopes that we get more of a feeling of what it'll look like when your pencil's there. So we've got our little mouse looking. Got our little ears here. I'll bring my ear in a little bit. A little harder to do this in charcoal than it is to do it in. And then I'm going to curve his face down. Since I'm in shadow, I'm going to make it a little pointier from our circle. And then color this in. So start getting our little mouse right there. How's it going? How's everyone doing? I'm adding little hairs up to the top. And we start getting our little mouse. And then we're going to add a little shading, and it's going to help us see the balance of whether we have this dark enough for our mouse. So these are the benefits of using charcoal. You get to easy to shade, but it also can make a little bit of a mess. So we're going to add some shading to the flower. We're going to come down in here and add some shading. I'm going to use my pencil. So I'm coming underneath the lip. And we will post this afterwards. So if anywhere I get really fast, or while you're concentrating on something, or you come back in and you do some erasing, don't worry, we post this. So you can, once it's posted, you can stop and rewind it and do all that good stuff. So I'm going to shade underneath that lip right there. Now, the technique I'm using to shade is I'm just working my pencil back and forth over the surface, like that, back and forth over the surface. So you can do this with your pen or your pencil. It's more a scribble than a hatch because it's not equally directional, but it will get the job done. Now, as I want it lighter and lighter, I put less pressure as I want it darker, I darken, I put more pressure. So we get that section right there, and we can start coming up a little bit from the flower too. We're going to, because this bottom part's going to be dark, let's bring that up that way. So I'm using all sorts. This is hatching right here as I keep it in that directional mark. And then if I was cross hatching, I would cross it like that. You see how you get that cross pattern right there? So I've got a scribble shade right there, and then I've got a cross hatch. So now this ends up being darker because it's behind. So I'm going to darken this up so you can use kind of that quick scribble technique. But see what happens when I put that dark color. Dark makes everything recede, to go back. Oh, there's a question, Tate.
Somebody said, Nate, can you draw a dad trophy? Number one dad trophy.
Oh, somebody just asked if I could draw a number 1 dad trophy. I wonder what that could be for. Father's Day, maybe? I think that'd be a pretty good. I think we probably could do something like that. Let me see how my schedule works, and I might be able to just make a video on that. It might not be a live. So we're going to come back in. That was a great suggestion. Who suggested that, Tate?
Kathy.
Kathy, great suggestion. Great suggestion, Kathy. So we're going to darken this in. So see how we have that darker right there? And then we're going to come to the other side. So all the light is coming from the top, so everything is dark from down below. So we want to come back over here, and I'm going to quickly shade in. Here we go. We're going to darken this up. Now, I'm going to show you another way to shade. You can do big sweeping lines. So as I move these up, I'm following the shape, so it's going to give me that direction. And I can do the same thing. We're going to keep that lip in front, so we want it to be lighter. And then I'm going to come. So we've got all different types of shading, but you see how it will just blend together because there's a lot of movement in your pencil. So, and you can come back over. The more you layer on with pencil, what you don't want to do is you don't want to take your pencil and grind it in. It's better to build up in layers. The more you add, the tighter your lines get. It's better to do that than is to start grinding in the pencil, because sometimes it doesn't give you that ability to, use a big word, nuance the lines. And you can tear your paper that way. So we'll just bring these in. I'm going to soften that dark line right there. I have such a hard edge. Mine is very dark because I have that charcoal. Yours might not be. And I'll soften that line right there. But really, you see how simple our little mouse face is and our little mouse hand. And then we have our flower. And then really, our stem, we're just going to have it dark right underneath. And just come down a little bit. That'll give us enough of that. I'll just give it a little shading over the side, and it's going to give us that more round right there. So, does anyone need me to repeat any of the steps? And I'll go back over, or if you have questions about the shading, but you kind of get where we're going with everything. And go ahead, and Tate will let me know. I'm going to clean that up with a little. So I'm not really erasing my design. I'm just cleaning up my charcoal, because if you see my hand, I'm going everywhere. One time I was in a drawing class, and I may have told this story already, but I was in a drawing class, and it was charcoal, and I had you might be a little surprised, but I got really into my drawing. And so I had charcoal on my face, on my hands, and everywhere. And I had some people come over to assist me because they thought I had an accident in the parking lot. So you might get a little dirty in drawing. You never know. So we're going to clean that up. I was concentrating so hard on my drawing, I didn't notice it. So, we have a question.
Could you quickly go over the steps for the mouse,
Yes. And was that the same question Tate had? They wanted to know if I could quickly go over the steps for the mouse. So what I might do is I might draw the little mouse face over here to help you out. So we drew a circle for the mouse, for the basic head, and we nestled that head right down into the flower. Remember, the mouse is out wandering around, smells some pollen. I'm going to a flower. That's my hangout. So that's what he's going to get. Now, what's happening is we can't see that his face actually comes out like that because he's looking straight at us. Just like when I look straight at you, you don't know if my nose comes out until I turn to the side. So we're going to, so we're going to put the shape by using shading. So we drew the circle, then we drew the ears over here, kind of like Mickey Mouse, M-I-C-K-E-Y over here. Who finished M-O-U-S-E? What? Oh, we have a question.
What colors do we color the mouse and the flower?
Now, the mice, if you Google them, tend to be a light brown. So kind of the color of honey, which makes me think of sweet things, and pollen, and bees, and other things. So they're the color of honey, and their bellies are white. So if you look at this one right here, this would be that kind of honey brown, and this little belly is white. Their noses are pink, and their eyes are black. If I was going to make this flower, I would probably pick red because I like red tulips. You can make your flower any color you want, even, a made-up color. You make a rainbow flower if you want. So let's go back to the face, and I'll go over that. We've got that circle, and then we've got these basically you just make a curved up line as though you're making a rainbow. We're going to add this little lip onto the ears because the front part of the ears is going to be thicker, and then there's going to be some shading in between. So you can add that on the outside or the inside, depending on where you think your ears are drawn. So I add that little shape right there and that little shape right there. So you can kind of see how that ear starts to curve in. Then we're going to look for his little nose, which this is about the center right there. His nose doesn't sit up that high. It's going to be a little bit lower. So if this is the center of my circle, I'm going to come down and I'm going to make a little upside down triangle right there. So that's going to be, we know where his nose is. He's got that little tiny nose. It's super cute. And then underneath he's got a little bit of a mouth that we can't see too well. And then he's got kind of that animal part, like as though that's, I guess, part of his nose right above. So we're going to draw that in, and it looks a little bit like a mustache. So just like that. And that gets that little part as though he's going like that. So you can also draw a little bit of a squiggly line that way. So that's going to get that basic shape. Now right now he still looks really round and you're not getting that dimension to come out. So we're going to put his eyes in and then we'll add some shading. So his eyes are about, if you come to this corner of the ear and then you come down about halfway between the nose, I'll put a dot there so I remember where it is. And I'm going to come down here about halfway between the nose and the ear. From that corner of the ear, see how I'm coming down? Right there. So I've got those little dots right there, but I know he's got some cute beady little eyes, so I need to round them up. They also don't slant up and down or straight sideways. They come off to the side like this. So we're going to put those round eyes in like that and then color them in. See how we get that little eye like that? It's almost like a little lima bean or something right there. But that's going to give us that shape. So we've got his circle, his ears, his eyes, his little nose, and his little mustachy thing. I don't know what the correct word is, so we'll go with that today. And then we want to do shading. So we want to shade kind of in this triangular way because that part of his nose is coming out, so it's going to be lighter, so we want to shade the part close up to his face. So we're going to do that by giving our lines around as though it's like a little triangle. So I'm making that, and what I'm doing is I'm just putting them, and since a mouse is furry, it's as though we're representing hair, so we don't worry too much about that line. So that's going to give us that feel. Do you see how it already starts feeling like it's coming out? Because remember, light, so the lightest color on this piece, anytime you're drawing, is usually the color of your paper if you're using white paper. And then every time you get darker and darker with your pencil, it goes back more. So we've got that. And then I'll go kind of quickly over this. We added a little above his eyes. And then we start shading in to the side because that's sitting down in the flower. And this can go any way you want because it's hair coming in. So I kind of came back in this way. And then you see the cross hatching there? I'm shading that in and get a little darker there. So you see how you start getting that. Then we're going to come back in, and I kind of shaped his face up a little bit. So I kind of went like that off our circle, giving him more of that little mousy chin. I started with a circle so we could put that in. And see how I do that? So I'll darken that underneath. So you see that. And we darkened underneath that on our flower, if you remember. And then I'm going to shade around to the other side. Anywhere it's in by the flower, we're going to have shading. And a little bit around his eyes. So we're keeping a lot of this pretty simple right here. Let me shorten that up just a little bit. And come back in there a little bit. So, because it's darker underneath, it makes that chin go forward. So, how do you do the hand? So I'll show you that in just a second. And then up here, you want to shade underneath that little lip of the ear as I bring that down in. I'll kind of give you that shading right there. Shading is hard, so if you don't have a lot of experience, this is a great one to play with because we can use all sorts of ways. And the more you shade, the better you become at it. Now, he has his little hand. All we did for his hand was we put it up right there. See? And it's a little arch, and then we gave it 4 fingers. Just coming in, 4 fingers, and they're little pointy fingers, so we don't have to worry too much about it. As though he's just coming right there. And then you can add a little shading if you want, but really the shading will be on your flower. You don't have to worry too much about that. So, and then I kind of came in and I wanted to soften my dark line, so I did that. So we've got our little guy right here. We've got our little mouse. And then I'm just going to add some shading right here. Because this is a fold over leaf. I might get my bigger pieces of charcoal so I could do this quicker for you. A little more quickly. Any other questions, Keaton? Okay. So, and that just moves this around. Kind of move that, and then I'll Now, when you ask about shading with a mechanical pencil or a regular pencil or a pen, the best thing you can do is when you are just sitting around and you want to kind of practice that, you just start putting lines like this and start making one darker and then make one not as dark and then make one a little less dark. And you can kind of just start doing that, and that helps you see how far you need to space your lines to get that idea of making this little creature. So, or making whatever you might want to be shading. So, are there any other specifics about our little guy here? And then I'll kind of just talk through, I don't think we're going to go through the other ones, but I'll talk you through how to make those. So on this one, when you're going to break it down, you're going to notice that the shape is more rounder here and then comes to a point. And you'll also notice the shading is actually the background so that the mouse comes to the foreground. The ear is off the end, so it's as though you have kind of an avocado on its side, the big round bottom, or a pear, big round bottom of an avocado coming to that point at that nose. And you've got your little triangle there. Your eye is just about in the middle of your avocado. So right there, big eye. And then your shading comes off like hair right there. Then on this little guy, you've got the same kind of idea. You've coming to a point right here where the nose is. This part of the head is a circle. This part comes down in the more triangular shape, like an avocado or a pear. The ear is off to the side. Notice the ears have those same little lips that we did on this guy. Then this guy has a little hand right here where it looks like he's holding something. I think they're eating. This one was eating raspberries when I drew it, and this one was eating wheat. So, and then I just did a lot of directional. I want you to see how the lines move all over. Number one, that gives me the shading, and number two, it gives the feeling of fur as you move it around. Their bellies are white, so I left it the white of the paper. So that gives you kind of that idea. And what you're looking for is anywhere the mouse goes in or anywhere, whatever you're drawing, the flower goes in or away from you, it's going to be shaded. So the more it goes away, the darker it gets. Or the more it is covered, the darker it gets. But I liked drawing our little guy in a flower because I thought those were the cutest pictures. And this gives you the basic breakdown and instructions on how to house your little mouse. You could change the type of flower. You could put where he is. I also did some things like little lines. You can add fur just like this. Like if you just make little lines off the top, it makes things look furry like that. So I think that gives you the basic idea. Did we have any other questions? Y'all think you have it? Okay. Well, now, if you did not go Google, go look at those pictures of those mice. They are so cute. They are adorable. I have a big thank you to Keaton for introducing me to harvest mice. Now, in full confession, I'm a little afraid of mice, so I might not want to meet them in real life, but I do want to see lots of little pictures of them. And this one, shading is a hard one. It has a lot of simple lines, but it's the shading that makes this picture. So really, this is a lesson in shading more than is drawing a harvest mouse, but it's going to give you both when you're done. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll still answer them afterwards. Stop, rewind it, and look back again. And if you miss it for some reason, I try to slowly load the pictures, the videos up to my YouTube channel, Kijsa Houseman, Kijsa Houseman. And watch next week as we make the adjustment in the studio to online camps and opening back up again. I still do want to come to you and bring you fun art and share my love of it with you. So I'll put those schedules out. It won't be every day of the week, but we'll come together as often as we can and draw something cool. So y'all have a great day. Happy, is it Wednesday? I can't even keep track anymore. Hope this got you over the hump of hump day, and have a good one. Art is man's nature, nature is God's art. Bye, guys.